In this video, I'm going to show you how to make roast pork with that perfect crackling, and I'll show you how to make some easy crispy potatoes as well. Now the first thing we're going to do is prepare our roast. I like to do this 2 to 4 days in advance. I'm going to be working with a 1.5 kilo pork loin roast, and the first thing I want to do, since we've got this straight out the packet, is I just want to pat this skin dry. I'm just going to do that with some paper towel, and then the next thing we want to do is we want to prick holes all over this skin. You can either do that with the tip of a knife. You only want to go a couple of mil deep into the skin. This is just going to allow any moisture sitting under the skin to escape. If you've got a corn cob holder, they work really well to pierce the skin, but one of the best tools is a jacquard. And by using this, I'm going to be able to get the job done much faster. And piercing the skin all over is going to help us get that nice aerated bubbly crackling we all love. And once the skin has been pierced all over, I like to just sit it on some cling wrap, and we want to cover up all the meat whilst leaving the skin exposed because we want to dry that out. So I'm just tucking all of this cling wrap up around the meat so that doesn't dry out. But like I said, it's really important at this stage that we let the pork skin dry out, which I think is the most important step to getting that perfect crackling. And all I'm going to do now is let this sit in the fridge for 2 to 4 days to let this skin really dry out. And after 48 hours in the fridge, this is how our pork is looking. That skin has dried out really nice. It's hardened up. That's exactly what we want. So what I'm going to do now is just take it out of that cling wrap, and now we're going to get the meat side seasoned up. You can use any of your favorite seasonings. We're just going to hit the meat side only with some of our steak shooter. And then if you've got any seasoning on the skin, just brush that off. Then we want to give the skin a nice light coat in olive oil. We'll rub that in all over, and then we'll give that a generous sprinkle in salt. And then we'll let that sit for 10 to 15 minutes while we set our barbecue up and get some briquettes going. So we'll be using our kettle style barbecue today. We'll start by opening our lid, taking our cooking grate off. We'll take one of these charcoal baskets out for now. We'll get a couple of firelighters going. Then we'll get our charcoal chimney on top, and then I'll get enough briquettes in there to fill both our charcoal baskets. So most lump charcoal will do the trick as it burns nice and hot, but if you're using briquettes, you want to make sure you're using a premium brand that can burn nice and hot. I find some of the budget brands just simply won't burn hot enough, and they release quite a dirty smoke as well. So whether you're using lump charcoal or briquettes, make sure you get something that burns nice and hot, or you're going to struggle to build your crackling. But for now, we'll come back once those briquettes are ashed over and burning nice and red hot, which will take around 10 to 15 minutes. And now our briquettes are ready. We'll take our charcoal chimney out, we'll get our second charcoal basket in there, and then we'll fill those charcoal baskets up. And we want to make sure our briquettes are spread out nice and even across both baskets. Then we can shut our lid, make sure both of our vents are wide open, and we'll give our barbecue a few minutes to preheat. And then once our barbecue's up to temperature, I'm looking at around 450 to 500 Fahrenheit or 230 to 260 Celsius. We can get our cooking grate back in, and then we want to get our beautiful little pork roast in between our charcoal baskets. And then we'll shut our lid and let that cook away. So with our pork on, we're going to allocate around 45 to 60 minutes per kilo. But what we're really going to be measuring it by is its internal temperature. I want to cook this until it reaches an internal temperature of just below 145 Fahrenheit or 63 degrees Celsius. With pork leg and loin roasts, you don't want to overcook them, otherwise they're prone to drying out. And the beauty about the Blackjack kettle is it's got a nice wide lid vent, so I can keep an eye on our pork roast throughout this whole cook. So after about half an hour, 45 minutes, I'll have a good look at it. If the crackling's starting to burn or overcook in some parts, I can just loosely cover it with foil, or just the parts that are starting to overcook or burn. But for now, we're going to let this cook away, and we'll come back to do these easy and crispy potatoes. So I said these crispy potatoes were going to be easier, and the first step of this process couldn't be any easier. We're going to be using some microwavable baby kestrel potatoes. So I'm going to get these into the microwave for 5 to 8 minutes until they are soft enough to squish down. And then once our potatoes are nice and tender, we want to open them up, get them on our cutting board. Then you want to use a spatula or another tool to squish them down like so, and we'll make some crispy smashed potatoes. And then we want to give these a good coat of olive oil on both sides. Then you can hit them with some salt, pepper, garlic, rosemary, or any of your other favorite seasonings, but I'm just going to sprinkle over some of our lamb layup. We'll make sure we hit both sides as well, and then we'll get these into a tray, and then we'll get our potatoes in with our roast, which has been going for a bit over half an hour, and that crackling has pretty much set all over. Now, as you can see, that crackling is starting to burn on the ends, which is completely normal. But I reckon we'll give this another 10 to 15 minutes just to get that crackling to set in these few little spots. And then I can loosely cover that with foil to finish it off. And the potatoes, we want to cook those for around 45 minutes, flipping halfway through until they are nice and crispy. So let's shut our lid, we'll let that pork roast keep going, and we'll get those potatoes started. After almost an hour 15 cooking away, I reckon our pork loin roast is ready. It is right on around 62, 63 Celsius, which is where we want it to be. I'm just going to take that foil off, and then we'll get it out and let it rest for around 20 minutes while these potatoes finish off. So with those crispy potatoes, if you weren't firing up the barbecue but you still wanted to do them, I do them all the time in the air fryer, or you could do them in the oven as well. And our roast pork has been sitting here for a few minutes now, so that cooking process has stopped. It's not going to carry over cooking anymore, so what I'm going to do now is just rest it in some foil whilst leaving that crackling exposed still. Now that's going to stay nice and hot until we're ready to serve that once our potatoes are ready. And after about 45 minutes, our potatoes are done. Just have a look at those. We can get these out and serve our pork as well. That crackling looks pretty good. You can see that meat just glistening in the light. That is nice and juicy. Let's have a taste. You can see that is just dripping with moisture. Tender, juicy, perfect crackling. That is a bloody good pork roast. And then the potatoes. Crispy on the outside, fluffy in the middle, and super tasty. And that crackling is bubbly, light, airy. You're not going to break your teeth on it. So good. Well, there you have it. There's how to make roast pork with that perfect crackling and some easy crispy potatoes. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you've subscribed to our channel so you don't miss our next videos. But for now, that's the end of this video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.